Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the first conversation between Steady and its members. I'm Adam Roseman. I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to co-found Steady and lead the company day to day as the CEO. And I'll let Demetrius introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Demetrius Wilson. I am the Director of Member Loyalty. So I'm directly in charge of handling the day-to-day in regards to all of our wonderful members that email us with all the questions and inquiries that we love to hear.
Cool. Well, thank you again for taking these few minutes out of your very busy days. Your time is extremely important. And we're very thankful that you've chosen to share a little bit with us. Hopefully we have the opportunity during this time to provide you with some value and make that time worth time. We certainly welcome your comments and questions during the course of this. Also, encourage you to reach out to us at any time. And I'm sure Demetrius will provide you later in the discussion direction on how you can reach out with any questions or feedback. And so we're going to jump right in. Today's topic is built around how to generate income during COVID-19, during the pandemic. Obviously, all of us are quite aware that since late February, early March of 2020, the world of work, not just in the U.S. but around the world, has changed. It's changed dramatically. And certainly not for the better for most. And we've been through a time now over the last, it's hard to imagine, I can say 11 months now, that it's been very, very difficult on so many families, tens of millions of American families. We are certainly very happy to be able to play our small part in helping America's workforce, but we are only one small piece of what is needed in terms of the overall picture from the standpoint of returning to an element of opportunity and actually creating opportunity, hopefully building back to a better place than we were prior, right? Where so many challenges and inequities even existed prior to the pandemic and have just been exacerbated. They've gotten worse, right, over the course of the last 11 months. So I want to start out today just by telling everybody you're not alone, right? If you're struggling, if you're having a hard time paying the bills, if you're having a hard time finding a job, finding income, if your hours have been shrunk, if you're not getting the level of tips you got before because whatever service you're providing is not as busy as it was, you're not alone. Right. This is why we're here today. We at Steady believe that community is the most important component of providing any individual with the opportunity to find and discover and create additional opportunity for themselves by learning and gaining the insights and the information that community has. What we're fortunately able to do at Steady is based on now our roughly 2.7 million members that we have, is we receive a lot of information. We're very thankful to receive that information. We have information relative to what's working and what's not in terms of how people are earning. We'll give you some of those insights today. We also hear a lot from you in terms of your feedback, which we certainly really very much appreciate. And that's the only way that we can continue to improve as a fairly young company. So, I'll start out with just mentioning that, we even at Steady, like everyone else, had to think about the world a little bit differently quite a bit differently when COVID struck. Our mission had been purely built around guiding people on how to generate extra income, building technologies that would enable us as we carry forward to suggest to people the exact right work to optimize your income based on your experience, your skills, your location. But when COVID came, right, I mean, we came into an environment where for many of individuals, it wasn't just maximize every dollar I can earn. It was, how do I generate income at all, right? Or how do I generate enough income to survive? And so we had to look at the world a little bit differently. And that's why we started to use our technology and our platform to launch Study Together back in last March and April, where we have been using our system to identify individuals that have had large losses of income, raising as much money as we can to give away as many cash grants as we can, a little over $3 million at this point. We certainly wish we could provide everyone with a cash grant, and we're doing everything we can to raise more and more. But we're doing what we can. And for those that have faced traumatic income loss, we've also had to focus really on understanding what work is now available, right? What makes sense for you to invest your time in from the standpoint of filling out a job application, following up with a potential employer, knowing that in a lot of instances, job listings that may have been up there prior to COVID, even though they're still there, they're still collecting resumes, they don't really exist anymore, right? There's not an intention to hire, right? And right now, it's important as anything for you to be able to have the opportunity to invest your time in things that are going to generate a return for you, right? And there's no perfect answer to that, but we're going to share some of those learnings with you today. So before I start to get into those learnings, I'm going to hand it over to Demetrius for a second. Demetrius, I'd love to hear from you. As our director of member loyalty, right? You're the front line. You are the individual who's leading our efforts to have day-to-day communications with our members, to hear their thoughts, hear their challenges, hear what they like and they don't like. Maybe talk to us for just a minute or two about some of the bigger challenges that you've heard over the course of the last couple of months.
Oh yeah, thank you, Adam. Yeah, I definitely love to do so. And echoing some of the sentiments that Adam had, it is about community, and that feedback that we hear from our members is also crucial for us to know and understand what we need to change, and also what we need to continue to do. We want to always work towards accentuating the positive things that our members love, and eliminate the negatives. In terms of the feedback that we hear from our members, a lot of times you do hear some confusion in terms of what they can do now, and sometimes we see them feeling a little bit helpless. And Steady has some solutions to those issues and some solutions to those problems. And I'm so happy and grateful that Adam was able to join us today to speak with you about some of those things that you can definitely follow. But the majority of the feedback is a feeling of anxiety sometimes, and they really need some answers pretty quickly. Some of the great boosters that we offer, a lot of our member base is really in need of those funds and in need of those rewards. So we want to make sure, and Adam's done a great job of boosting up our department so that we're able to answer our members in a very quick manner, and make sure that we're able to satisfy their needs, and not be tone deaf to how things have changed in this environment. Again, like, empathy is the biggest thing. It's just a universal solvent. We have to put ourselves in their shoes, and know and understand that there are going to be certain emotions and certain anxieties around these times, and we're here to provide help. And a lot of times, some of our members, you may be surprised to hear, Adam, and I'm always a little surprised to hear that they're surprised that we're here to help, and not with strings attached, but we're here to help and assist our community to do better. So for the most part, we do hear a little bit of confusion that we're typically able to assist with, and then we also hear a little bit of anxiety in terms of getting things resolved from our side pretty quickly, which we're able to do, and our members, they truly show that they are grateful for us doing so.
Thank you, Demetrius. Maybe, and I'll have you restate it at the end, but just for a moment, can you let everybody know how they can reach out to us to the extent that they have questions, feedback from today, or more broadly speaking?
Yeah, definitely. Send us an email at support@steadyapp.com. We'd love to hear from our members. Some companies, they take a tone deaf approach to things where they don't really want to hear from the members, but we really truly want to get your feedback. We want to truly understand where you are with things, and we want to help you down the path towards for financial success. So send us an email at any time. We're always on the lookout for anything that you may need, and we'll definitely follow up with that in the emails, and include our email address so that our member loyalty team will always be readily available to assist.
Thank you, Demetrius. And again, that's support@steadyapp.com. Okay. Great. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing with everybody some data here that may be interesting for you to see. All right. So we're going to start out here showing a little bit about what's happened over the course of the last 6 months during the course of the pandemic. So, in terms of making this very, very simple, without having to walk through a ton of detail, what the blue line is each weekly period is the blue line is how much money in total all of our study members have made in that week, right? And this is based on the income tracker that we have that provides study members with the ability to track their income, find better ways to earn, and enables us to do a better job based on understanding where people are being successful so that we can suggest to people that are being successful that they continue with those items. And to those individuals who are not as successful, suggest to them perhaps some areas that they can think about that can create some additional opportunity. So what you can see here is blue is the amount of money in total that our members were earning during that week, right? So basically, if you think about all of Steady's members multiplied by the number of study members multiplied by the amount of money that they earned on average that week, this is what you see. So what you can see is, in fact, if you look at July 31, which was well into the pandemic, right? We were in the summertime. We've actually seen a significant decrease in earnings since that time, despite the fact that we're in an environment where there's a lot talked about the unemployment rate decreasing again. I think the challenge is that a lot of individuals, despite the fact that they may have found work again or they may have been brought back to work, just aren't earning what they used to earn, right? For a variety of reasons. Again, whether it's you're not being called in as often, whether it's you're not getting the hours you want, again, not getting the tips you want. We're seeing this as a reasonably universal trend. What the red is you'll see is the amount of money generated through unemployment insurance, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but includes both traditional unemployment insurance, so if you're a W-2 worker, and PUA, Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, which is for 1099 workers as part of the CARES Act. What you'll see is in this time frame, when this starts to shrink, this is predominantly due to the fact that at the end of July and into August, the extra $600 a week that had been allocated by Congress in the CARES Act for unemployment insurance went away. And it took states a while to process those amounts. Hence, you see the money continuing a little bit into September and October. But as you get into November and December, you'll see that amount from unemployment insurance really start to go away because the government wasn't providing the level of support that they had been earlier in the pandemic. You'll see starting in early January with the new supplemental $300 a week that went into effect starting in January of this year, you'll see that additional amount start to create an increase and supplement and grow that unemployment insurance base back. But we can tell you that extra unemployment insurance amount has been so incredibly crucial to so many of our members who just right now cannot find enough work because it just doesn't exist. And we see this. So we're going to talk a little bit more about unemployment insurance later, but I certainly would encourage all of you who yourselves or your family members or your friends are having challenges finding work, and during these very difficult times need unemployment insurance in order to help you make the payments, to please call your Congress people, right? Call them, look up to see who your House of Representatives member is in the area you live, who the two senators are in your state. Call them, email them. They have people that are on the other end of the line, and just make them hear your story. We're doing everything that we can to share stories that we have from study members to ensure that there's additional support provided and hopefully a new stimulus bill. But it takes all of us. So we really strongly would encourage all of you to play a part there. Okay. So what we're going to show here is just some areas that that have been hard hit, right? So you can see the fall off of the red here, and if you look at that category, that's ride sharing. So if you think about Uber, Lyft, any other ride sharing services, ride sharing has taken quite a hit, as we all know, and it's actually had a second hit that we've seen that's happened, during the holiday season. So, it found a trough, and in most areas of the country, it has not recovered. Hospitality continues to be an area that, if you were working in hospitality before, is not an area that in the near term you should probably be thinking about trying to find a new job if you're looking for work. It's going to be very challenging, very few positions available. That's the orange line. Hospitality has been tremendously hurt, and the belief is that it's not going to come back anytime soon. Important to be aware of these trends in the entertainment industry, right? So anything having to do with catering, live events services. If you work in any of those areas, or you worked in those areas previously, it's going to be very difficult for you to find work in these fields to the extent that you're looking for work in those fields in the near future, meaning the next 1 or 2 years at the least. So it's very important that you start thinking about other things that you can do where you can use those same skills and experiences. And pretty soon, Steady is going to be in a position to start offering those and suggesting them to you in our mobile app. We've been working very hard to be able to do that. Skilled labor, on the other hand, right? So if you're providing for home services of any type, have a trade credential, we've actually seen skilled labor recovered really nicely in the purple, right? So to the extent that you're thinking about a potential new career, getting a trade degree in anything from being an electrician to plumbing to HVAC, those are some of the stablest positions that are generating the most income right now amongst our members. And I'd really encourage you to think about those as opportunities you can consider for the future.
Yeah, I think that's some great advice, Adam. We definitely do see a trend of our members, signaling in and emailing us and contacting us that they've had to pivot to different industries, and having a subject matter expert that can kind of guide our members to a better path in this time where they're not sure how things are going to rebound in their current industry is really beneficial.
Yeah, and something that we'd actually love to learn from Steady members that we're going to be exploring is actually providing some personal phone assistance to certain of our members to help them provide them with better guidance than just interaction with the mobile app. So I actually would ask all of you, to the extent that you think that would be valuable, to receive some personal phone assistance or Zoom or FaceTime or any type of video calling assistance to really guide you on where that opportunity might exist today. Please send us an email. Please let us know. Again, it's support@steadyapp.com. This is a path that we're seriously considering going down, but we need to make sure first that that there's enough interest and desire from our members to have that level of support. So we'd love to hear from you. On the flip side, not every industry has been doing poorly. If you think about any form of delivery during the course of the pandemic, it's been skyrocketing. We've seen a shift that many of you may be familiar with that was expecting to happen really over the next 5 to 10 years, where more and more people are shopping from home, not just for things that they would buy from home historically on Amazon, like electronics, but now people are having their food delivered, as you know, from grocery. They're having their restaurant food delivered. They're having most elements of what they buy, both necessities and then also extras, having delivered, partially because of the fear of safety, the lack of safety in terms of going into facilities. In other instances, because now it's just becoming more normal in life. And so these are industries that have exhibited a lot of growth. So, certain of these companies, I think, as you'll find within the Steady app, as we start providing guidance on how much people can earn from these companies, certain of them treat their employees and their workers better than others. That certainly varies. Those that we've actually seen, be the most impactful are companies actually like Amazon. Steady has no vested interest, no income from Amazon from the standpoint of talking about them here today. But what we can say is that they do offer that $15 minimum wage nationwide. And despite the fact that they have a lot of challenges and there's a lot that they can be doing better, we actually see the delivery people with Steady that are delivering for Amazon is some of the more successful versus other delivery services. I'd throw UPS into that mix as well, especially given that UPS for a certain segment of its part-time workers also provides some benefits like health insurance. But delivery has been an exceptional opportunity during this time and continues to be. And then, lastly, a few categories that I think are also important to point out. Home improvement is done reasonably well. People have, while they've been at homes, they spend more time there. They're not obviously out anywhere near as much. In some parts of the U.S., they're not out at all. And so what do people want to do? They want to make their home more comfortable, whether that's doing a small self-improvement project like painting a wall, or doing something more substantial. And as a result of that, work opportunities in home improvement companies and home improvement services have been performing very well. Hence, there's a lot of jobs that have been available for people during this time. I'll also tell you that as we approach the springtime, March, April are the busiest times of the year for hiring of seasonal workers for home improvement. Because the busiest time of year for home improvement is the summertime, right? Or spring and summer, so April forward. So most of the big home improvement retailers like Home Depot and Lowe's and others, and most of the service companies, right, which tend to be reasonably local, have their biggest seasonal hiring in March and April. So if you're coming out of perhaps seasonal work that you did in retail, or online retail during the fourth quarter of last year that may have wrapped up in December or January, and you're looking for additional seasonal work. Right now, specifically with the travel and tourism industry being very challenging, I would say that home improvement is going to be one of those sectors that you really should think about looking at here as we enter the course of the next couple of months.
Right, Adam. I have also seen a trend with our members that have, run into some difficulties in terms of their regular employment, went into, some form of part-time and gig work, rebounded and went into, some of these industries that you're indicating, and decided to stick with their part-time and gig work jobs, because now for that time frame that they were out of work, they really needed to kind of build back up their savings and build back up their nest egg. So, I know that Steady, the platform has really been beneficial, really been helpful. A lot of them have sent in testimonials and reviews in terms of how it's really helped them to get back on track and get back to where they were before.
I appreciate that, Demetrius. And I think you'll see, now and over the course of the next several months in particular, what we're doing at Steady is to roll out within the app the ability to see how much jobs actually pay, right? And I think this is, sometimes people wonder, why do we have the income tracker? From our perspective, what our goal is to enable our community to be able to share how they earn better with everyone else in the worker community. If you think about Glassdoor, people go there to provide reviews of employers. Well, there's nowhere that people can go to actually see how much people are really making at other employers. Like if I go and I take this job in my area at this employer, maybe they're going to pay me $12 an hour, but I don't know how many hours I'm going to get. I don't know how consistent those hours are going to be. I don't know how often or frequently I'm going to get paid necessarily. So Steady is really working as quickly as possible to roll out more and more features to provide you with real data based on other members of our community, obviously on a no-name basis, but automated real data on how much other people are earning at those opportunities, so that you have the ability to all share with one another and hopefully learn from one another and improve over time. So please keep your a lookout for more and more of those features.
Yeah, it definitely shows how those insights really help, whether it be through the member loyalty channel, whether it's just direct feedback or the data insights that we receive. It definitely helps us, again, like you mentioned, as a community, and helps others, potential members, to join on with Steady and continue to grow.
Absolutely. And right now, I think, it's important to, if you are looking for work, persistence is important as ever, right? I mean, there are so many individuals in many instances applying for one position now, which wasn't the case before, that it's really critical that you help to set yourself apart from others who might just be submitting an application on Steady or Indeed or Glassdoor or anywhere else. It's important to try to figure out who the hiring manager is, right? So who's going to be hiring for that position? Call up the location where you're applying for the job, ask who the hiring manager is for that job. They'll generally tell you. Do everything that you can to either get that person on the phone, get their email address, send them a personal note to express why you believe that you're the right person for the job. Show them that you care, right? And that you really want that position. And now more than ever, to the extent that you find a position that's really interesting to you, or 5 or 10 positions that are really interesting to you, because it is a numbers game. The more that you apply for and take the time to invest in, the more likelihood that you're going to get one of those positions that you really want. If you find those, really take the time to be persistent, right? And contact that hiring manager and make sure that when you're submitting that application or your resume, that you take the time to look for grammatical errors, spelling errors, other things that might cause someone else's application to get reviewed and viewed better than yours, even though you might be the better worker, right? So I think it's important to show that quality and that persistence. And in future of these seminars, we'll go into much greater detail with some experts on creating resumes, on preparing yourself to go and interview, specifically during the COVID period, which in a lot of instances could be over the phone or over video conferencing. And we'll be sharing with you some of those things that we've seen be most successful for our members through a series of experts. We look forward to sharing that with you. So before we move on, Demetrius, I think on your side, are there any questions relative to what we've been talking about so far that we should?
Yeah, no questions. Just we can, move forward from there. But yeah, just a couple of observations from my side. Like you said, as a sense of community, just keep echoing that, and then also the sense of empathy from our side, most specifically member loyalty. I can say, just from my personal standpoint, I was really excited to join Steady because Adam has really created an environment and a company that they take empathy into consideration, right? And that's most important in our department in member loyalty, where we're dealing with the members, and sometimes things can be somewhat more emotional because they're tied to their earnings and their income. So the things that we see from our side is that we can be kind, we can be considerate, we can be patient with our members. And since we have the staff that we're able to take the time and actually walk them through the processes, is really helpful for our members, not only for if their goal is to achieve employment, whether it be full-time, part-time, or gig work, but also sometimes even with the boosters, because it's putting some additional funds in their pocket that they may need at a crucial time in their life during the pandemic. So I think that those trends are always going to hold true, and I think it just depends on the organization, depends on most specifically our department, to make sure that we relay that to our members, to make sure that they know that we do care, and we do take you as a member, not as a customer. We don't look at our members as transactional. We look at them as members, as part of our community, and their successes are our success. If you go out and you utilize the Steady platform to get a job, you're going to be happy. And when you're happy, we're happy, and your success is our success. They go hand in hand, and they're in tandem. We're definitely the advocates for our members. They have a lot of great ideas. And, we always have to take a step back and look at things from their standpoint, as opposed to our own, because, we're near and dear and close to the product, and we love it. But there's always some additional, viewpoints that come from our members that are really beneficial to us building out our platform to be even bigger and better than it currently is.
Thank you, Demetrius. And I think we're here today to talk predominantly about how you can be successful during this time, or have a chance to be most successful. But I think to Demetrius's point, our core measuring stick as a company, how we measure our success, is built around how much additional income do we generate for our members on average, right? And that's something that we started the business on the backbone of, and we continue that today, and we will continue that for as long as we have the opportunity to serve you. Is how much additional income are we generating for our members on average? And unfortunately, in most instances, that doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. Increasing your income is an investment of your time, of your effort. But there's no better way to improve your finances than to take the time to invest in finding a job or a career that's going to make the most money for you, or more money than you're making today. We're pleased to say that Steady Today measures its success, and for those members who have started job applications through us, who we can track, we've increased those members' incomes by an average of over $5,500 a year more. And that's about 12% on average from an income perspective across each of those members. So, like everything, it requires an investment of time to create, a sustainable solution, right? We're not providing you with an immediate loan. That's not what we do. We're here to help you fix the problem so that hopefully you never need to take that loan out again, right? Or you only need to take that loan out, or take down your earnings early if you actually have an emergency. But hopefully that cannot be the normal for most or all of us, right? All of those that we're serving specifically. So if you have any questions, I know there's a mechanism to submit them as we're talking. I'm going to move on now to the topic of unemployment insurance, right, and government benefits. And during this time, as I showed you on the charts earlier, there's really two ways that Steady members have been working to generate income into their bank accounts, into their credit unions, into their Venmo accounts or Cash App accounts, their PayPal accounts, get their payroll cards loaded. It's been based on work-related income and on some form of unemployment insurance. And that second piece in particular, that unemployment insurance, is more important than ever. Prior to the pandemic, we were able to look at the number of jobs that existed in the US, which we scan very closely, and look at the number of individuals that were looking for work and see, while there were a lot of work opportunities in the US, far too many that didn't pay enough for someone to create a decent living despite an incredible amount of hard work, and didn't offer the type of support that workers certainly deserved. There was enough jobs for one person to at least have a job of some sort. Right now, that's not the case. And we see that day in and day out. And as a result of that, that government benefits piece is more important than ever. And we're living in a world that's changing rapidly. And I think none of us are really clear right now on how long it's going to be before we're able to get to a point where we return back, hopefully better than we were before, with better opportunity and less inequities, more equal opportunity for everybody. So in the meantime, that unemployment insurance is super important. Something that we've seen as an organization, because we looked at the data, is actually individuals who earn less have taken much longer to receive unemployment benefits, which doesn't make any sense. Those that perhaps have less earnings historically are those that are probably should be first in line, right, to receive benefits. That's the way the system's supposed to work, but it's not working that way right now. We're seeing the opposite. We're seeing individuals who are making more, who lost their work, getting their benefits first. A lot of that has to do with systems and just the fact that a lot of those higher income workers were W-2 workers. And it's easy for state unemployment systems to receive reports from W-2 employers. And if you're receiving, PUA today or PUA, 1099 work, they don't receive 1099s from employers. So it's up to you basically as a worker, unfortunately, to provide that data to the state. And the states are just overwhelmed because their systems are decades old. They're not built for this. And there's so much investment in new technology and new services, so that states are actually able to provide to their residents that safety net that they deserve and that most of you have paid into historically as workers, right? When you're working, you're participating and paying into an unemployment benefits pool for the state. So again, this is another one of those items that I would really encourage you, if you're already receiving your benefits, if you haven't received them yet, God forbid, there's far too many of you who are still waiting. If you have any friends or family who've waited too long or not received the right amounts, again, please take the time to reach out to your Congress people in your area. Again, House of Representatives members, in addition to your 2 state senators, and they all have phone lines that you can call to provide them with feedback and insight on the fact that the U.S. and each state needs to invest the time and the energy into improving its systems so that it can deliver benefits to people that need those benefits the most. We'd really encourage you to do that. So just a few moments on some things that you may already be aware of, but there's really, right now 4 key elements of unemployment insurance benefits that exist. Only one of those existed prior to the CARES Act. Now there's 4. There was 3 up until January, or end of December, and now a 4th was added. So the first, which most of you are familiar with, is traditional unemployment insurance. This is if you're a W-2 worker and you have lost a substantial amount or all of your income from that W-2 work, and you haven't been able to replace that income with new work quickly, you have the ability to file, or your employer who filed for you, to receive unemployment insurance benefits. Those benefits vary from state to state and vary based on the amount of money that you earned prior to losing your job or your income. And up until end of July of last year, again, people qualified for a $600 extra a week payment amount from the federal government, not from your state, but from the federal government. The states would pay out as part of the CARES Act. If you were unemployed during that time and you haven't received that $600 extra from April to July, please stay on top of your unemployment insurance office. I know that they're not answering your calls. I know they're not returning your emails, which is terrible. They don't have enough staff. They don't have systems that can help. And they're going to get to you eventually, but you need to stay on top of them. And you need to make sure that you eventually get that $600 a week extra. For individuals who were on traditional UI unemployment insurance, there was something put in place called PEUC, pandemic economic unemployment compensation, which provided for extra time for you to receive unemployment benefits. Each state prior to COVID would pay out as much as 13 to 26 weeks of unemployment insurance benefits prior to you no longer qualifying. With PEUC, it extended that by 13 weeks in 2020. So you were able to receive that up to 13 weeks more during the year of 2020. That terminated as of the end of 2020. But now a new PEUC extension has been put in place for 13 additional weeks, starting at the beginning of January. So if your unemployment insurance was going to run out in your state because you were hitting the end of that 13 to 26 weeks, you need to make sure that you're applying through your state unemployment insurance office for PEUC so that you can now qualify for those additional 13 weeks. The hope is, and Steady is fighting very hard to make sure that that gets extended even further than those 13 weeks. We don't know what the outcome is going to be just yet. But for the time being, it's important that you're fighting for what you deserve and what you earn and what they legitimately need to pay you. So again, if your benefits had come to a conclusion, let's just say even in the middle of 2020, right, you now have the ability to receive 13 weeks extra in 2021, okay, under PEUC. Additionally, the supplemental unemployment insurance, which I talked to you about, the 600 that ran out at the end of July, there's now a smaller amount that's being paid out, $300 to $400 is being paid out a week extra to individuals. Again, through March, so for 13 weeks. And So if you're receiving unemployment insurance, you should be receiving the amount that you qualified for with your state, plus that extra amount each week. If they don't pay you on time, they should, but if they don't, which unfortunately we see with far too many, you're still owed that money. And so make sure that you continue to file each week, that you continue to fill out your weekly report for every week that you qualify for those benefits. And you will eventually receive that money if you stay persistent enough. And I wish I could tell you it was going to be tomorrow. I can't, but I can tell you that if you stay on top of them, they will get to you eventually. I hate even having to say eventually, but that's the reality of the world that we're living in today. And you will receive those funds. So make sure that you stay on top of it and don't give up. This is something that you're owed, something you will receive. So please don't give up. The last piece, right, we've talked about, actually two more, I'm sorry. The third, which was part of the CARES Act and has been extended now for 13 weeks into 2021 as well, is pandemic unemployment assistance. So PUA, or some people call it PUA. What this is it provides for unemployment insurance for 1099 workers. So if you didn't have a W-2 job, but you were earning from 1099 work, you can receive PUA or PUA. That has been extended for 13 more weeks in 2021. And there is now a requirement because the government has seen a lot of fraud, unfortunately, from bad actors, a lot of overseas, some here in the US. You now need to provide some confirmation of your historical earnings. You need to show things like bank statements and pay stubs. This is something that Steady would love to be able to generate reports for you on. So also to the extent that you're talking to your unemployment insurance office and you're having a hard time providing them with the support that you need to prove to them that you deserve PUA, please send us an email at support@steady.com, and we'd love to help. We'd love to help and hear from you on your lack of receipt of unemployment insurance. And I'd even extend that further to say, if you still are not receiving the unemployment insurance benefits that you deserve today, please let us know. We'd like to know this. We're talking to states day in and day out. The more stories that we have to tell, the more successful we're going to be at actually driving real positive change. So if you are a 1099 worker and you did lose income, as a result of COVID or the pandemic, you have PUA through 13 weeks of 2021. And again, the hope is that will be extended for a material period of time so that it doesn't end after those 13 weeks. But again, if you haven't received those benefits, stay on top of it. Let us know, but stay on top of it until you eventually receive those funds. The last piece, which is the newest piece of what happened at the end of December to start in January, is called MEUC, Mixed Employment Unemployment Compensation. So many different acronyms now, different letters, and every type of unemployment insurance. What this one does is that if you're both a W-2 and 1099 worker, right? So if you generated income prior to the pandemic or during the pandemic and then lost income at the beginning or anytime during the pandemic from your 1099 work, but you're still working your W-2 work, you qualify now for MEUC. That MEUC is $100 extra a week. You need to show that you generated at least $5,000 of 1099 income in the prior year, prior to losing your 1099 income. Once you demonstrate that you earned at least $5,000 during that prior year, you then have the ability to apply for MEUC and receive $100 extra a week. Again, this is one of those items that you're going to have to stay on top of the unemployment office in your state, but you will eventually receive that for a period of, that's 11 weeks. So a total of $1,100 that you'll receive for that period of time, to the extent that you've lost your 1099 work, but still have W-2 employment. So if you have any other questions on this, anything that you'd like to share with us, this is an area where we're looking to be helpful to our members in terms of guiding them, but also in terms of providing them with the support and the materials that they need to be successful in receiving the right amount of funds and receiving it in a much more timely fashion than what we've seen, which has not been acceptable in most states. Please do reach out to us at support@steadyapp.com.
I'm glad you touched on a few of those, Adam, just because did have some questions coming in
Yeah.
from some of our members that that were gig workers and kind of needed to some further understanding in terms of how that worked in terms of them for the unemployment insurance. So,
There's
so
any questions you want to point out, perhaps with things I didn't talk about?
yeah. So there are a couple more. I know one of our members had recently asked, like, what can they do as members to help steady? I know from my side, the more feedback they give, the more beneficial it is, whether it be on reviews, whether it be on just direct email. It's always helpful for us from our side, but just from your side, what can a member do that would be beneficial not only to themselves as a person utilizing our platform, but also to other potential steady members?
Well, thank you first off for asking that question. Right now, we're focused on helping you. So whoever you are, thank you for the question, but our focus is on you. I'd say that if you've had a positive experience with Steady, and I'm so glad you have, would be my guess if you're asking that question, you can simply tell your friends or family who might be having the same challenges as you, that Steady exists, and perhaps give them some information around what was helpful to you. What did you find helpful on Steady? I think at the same time, to Demetrius's point, what is incredibly helpful for us is to hear what's worked well for our members and also hear what hasn't worked well for our members so that we can constantly improve. We're only a 3-year-old company. We're still technically a startup at this point. We're doing everything we can to grow as quickly as possible, but we still have a lot to learn and a lot to do. We always want to do as much as possible, as fast as possible, but at our stage, like any business, you still need to prioritize those things that we hear most frequent from our members. So the more that we hear from you on what we're doing well and what we're not doing well, we can incorporate those into our decision making of what we prioritize and what we're able to do first in terms of creating new solutions. But thank you again for asking that question.
And another question was, were they able to work part-time, but then receive benefits as a gig worker?
Yeah. So if you're you are. So there are thresholds that depend on the state. So to the extent that you would like help in terms of understanding the specific dollar amount for your state, please send an email to support@steadyapp.com, reference this seminar. We'll get an answer to you on what that threshold is in your state. But if you are still earning, but you've lost your 1099 work or your gig work, yes, you do qualify either for PUA. If you're not making too much on your W-2 work, you'll qualify for PUA if you're below the threshold, or if you are above the threshold because you're making too much from your W-2 work now, even though you lost your 1099 work, you'll qualify for the MEUC, which I referenced, which is the $100 a week. And it all has to do with how much you're now earning from that W-2 job, whether you qualify for PUA or whether you will fall into the MEUC bucket. But please email us if you need any additional information on that. We'd love to help.
Yeah, and I've seen a little bit of an uptick in regards to some questions here about help with taxes. Anything you'd like to say about that part?
Yeah, so taxes are challenging this year in particular. One thing that I don't think the government did as good enough job at all of talking about is that unemployment insurance benefits are taxable, right? So if you don't know that, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I think it's important that everyone is aware of the fact that any unemployment check you got, not your stimulus checks that you received, the $1,200 or whatever level you received in early or roughly April, May of 2020, and any stimulus check that you've received in early 2021, those are not taxable. But your unemployment insurance benefits checks are. They count as income, right, on your taxes. So this year it's going to be very interesting, very different for most of the steady members. I think in a lot of instances, it's going to be very economically challenging, financially challenging, because in past years, a lot of individuals have relied on tax returns in order to refunds, in order to perhaps provide for some additional income during part of the year. This year, because people earned less in 2020, they may have smaller refund amounts. And also, if you've received unemployment insurance, they're going to tax you on that amount come tax season this year, come April 15th. So be prepared for that. I think the best thing that you can do is utilize a free service, utilize the free Intuit TurboTax service or Credit Karma's tax service, which is now owned by Intuit. Utilize one of these services that's free. That will walk you through and ask you all the questions that you need to be asked. Go to a third-party app like a Keeper, to the extent that you're interested in understanding what expenses as a 1099 worker that you might be able to count against your income on your tax return, so that you can increase your refund. And I would suggest completing your taxes earlier than ever, specifically if you earned less last year, and if you received unemployment insurance benefits, to give yourself enough time to try to earn a little bit extra if you end up actually owing this year, receiving less of a refund that you typically rely upon. And if that's the case, that's why Steady's here. Steady's here to help you find ways to earn more. But we want you to certainly be aware of the fact that, for the most part, most of our members are going to be getting smaller refunds this year, or actually end up owing for perhaps maybe the first time. But any additional detailed questions, please reach out to us.
Yeah, I think that was really beneficial for our members to know and hear that part. So thank you.
Sounds good. I know we're coming to an end here. Any final questions, Demetrius? Or if not, maybe ask you for some final thoughts.
Yeah, not a couple final questions. One, just I'll provide a couple final thoughts, but then also for our members that are out there listening, hope you enjoyed it. Really grateful to have you here, Adam. Make sure that you give us a thumbs up on the video, and then subscribe to our channel to ensure that you don't miss any of the upcoming series. I think that these things will be very, very beneficial to our members and the things that they have questions on. A lot of times there's things that they'll email us about, and we'll provide them with some assistance. But there are some other things that are a little bit more extensive that having a subject matter expert speak on is really beneficial, just to take the time to listen to it. Also, it could be it's recorded and they can catch it if they weren't able to join us. But we're always happy to have you join us here. And listen to Adam and any other guest speakers that we may have that are able to provide you with the type of information that you need to continue to increase your financial health and increase your income. And that's, like I said, that's your goal. That's our goal, and we're here to look out for our members and ensure that they're on the right path. And that's what we'll continue to do. That's like Adam said, that's what we're built on. Appreciate him building a platform that allows our members to do so.
No, we appreciate all of you, and this is now more than ever. We wouldn't exist without you. We're pleased to have the ability to serve you. We take it to heart that every day we need to work as hard as we possibly can to serve you better. And the one thing that we can tell you with confidence is that will never stop. We will continue doing everything we can to improve. And at times, we may not be able to solve all of your problems. We wish we could, but we'll do everything that we can to do so. So please give us information. Let us know. It's support@steadyapp.com. Ask us any questions. We're here to help. If we end up receiving too many inquiries over time, we'll hire and train more member loyalty reps. Demetrius will get them trained so that we can make sure that we're always going to be responsive to our members' outreach. And we really thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Again, we know how valuable every moment is for each of you, especially in these very difficult times. And we're so thankful that you've chosen to spend a few of them with us, and certainly hope that there's been a couple of items that have been helpful. And if not, at least a couple of questions that perhaps came to mind that you'd like to follow up with us on. So I really appreciate it. Demetrius, wonderful having you. Thank you for leading the front lines for our team and our members.
Right. And then just one last thing, when will our members be able to see the second version of our series?
Yeah, so a note will go out soon. If I gave an answer to that, I would probably give the wrong answer because we our team is working on locking down that date. They probably know, but I don't. So we will send that out, and I'm glad you asked and are inquired. And we certainly, if you follow our channel, we'll make reference of it there, and also we'll ensure that we communicate out to our members through email or push notification. But we're glad that you asked the question. Hope you'll join us on the next one.
Yeah, definitely so. Thanks a lot. Thank you for joining us, Adam.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody.